So I was looking at the thermostat on my wall this morning, and I had this really weird thought. Is this little plastic box intelligent?
Hmm. Okay.
No, serious. It sits there, it feels the temperature, so it's perceiving the room, right? And if it gets too cold, it clicks on the furnace. It acts to change its environment. It sees and it acts. I mean, does that make it smart?
That is such a deceptive crogan.
Ah.
Because in a very strict sort of mechanical sense, yes, it fits the definition of an agent.
Okay.
But if you're asking if it's rational or if it has any genuine autonomy, that's where the whole conversation gets messy. And I mean, that's exactly what we're unpacking today.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're stripping away all the sci-fi hype today. No Terminators, no HAL 9000 having an existential crisis. We are really looking at the nuts and bolts of how artificial intelligence interacts with the world. We're talking about intelligent agents.
Right.
And we've got some fascinating research to get through that defines what an agent is. And this is my favorite part, how we distinguish a smart machine from, I don't know, a glorified toaster.
Right. And the mission for this deep dive is really to define rationality. We aren't just cataloging robots here. We're trying to bridge that massive gap between seeing the world, what engineers call percepts, and actually doing the right thing.
So let's start with the basics. You said the thermostat fits the bill. How are we defining an agent here? Because I usually think of like a secret agent or maybe a travel agent.
It's much, much broader than that.
Yeah.
In this field, an agent is simply anything that perceives its environment through sensors and acts upon that environment through actuators. That's the loop. Sense, then act.
Okay, so for a human, my sensors are my eyes and ears, and my actuators are what, my hands or my voice?
Exactly. And for a robot, the sensors might be cameras or infrared rangefinders, and the actuators are motors or wheels. But, and this is a really important point, it also applies to software.
You mean like a bot online?
A soft bot, exactly. Yeah. It lives in a purely digital world. It doesn't have hands. Its actions are things like displaying text on a screen, writing a file, sending a network packet. But the principle is identical. It reads the environment, maybe a database or a user's keystrokes, and it acts to change that environment.
Okay, so whether it's walking, gripping, or just sending an email, it's all acting. But this is where I get stuck. Just because something can act, that doesn't mean it's doing a good job. I can act by tripping over my own shoelaces.
That is technically an action. But you're right. We need a way to judge success. In the math of AI, they talk about the agent function. It's basically a massive map. Just imagine a table that lists every possible thing the agent has ever seen, and next to it, the specific action it should take.
That sounds like an infinitely long list.
Practically, yeah, it is. But to understand the logic, engineers often use a really simple model, the vacuum cleaner world.
I saw this in the notes. It's strangely compelling.
It is. So imagine a universe that only has two squares, A and B, and some dirt. The vacuum agent sees just two things. Where am I? And is there dirt here?
Okay. And it can move left, move right, or suck up the dirt.
Or do nothing. That's its entire universe. Now, if we want to build the perfect vacuum agent, we have to define what good behavior is. We need a performance measure.
Right.
And this is where it gets tricky. If you tell the agent your goal is to maximize the amount of dirt you suck up, and that is the only rule,
Yeah.
what do you think a hyper-rational AI might do?
Well, if it wants to maximize the amount, it would suck up the dirt, dump it back out on the floor, and then suck it up again.
Yes.
Over and over. Infinite points.
Exactly. It maximized the performance measure you gave it, but it completely failed the actual goal of, keeping the floor clean.
It feels like that story of the genie, where you have to be really, really specific with your wish.
It's the exact same principle. But there's another trap here, something called the sour grapes problem.
Sour grapes, like the fable.
Right. The fox can't reach the grapes, so he decides he didn't want them anyway. Humans do this all the time to protect our egos. We fail to get a promotion, so we tell ourselves, oh, I didn't want the extra stress anyway. We change an internal performance measure to match our failure.
Okay, that's a coping mechanism for me. But why is that a problem for a robot?
Because you do not want a robot to have that ability. Imagine you tell a cleaning robot, keep this house clean. It looks around, sees a huge mess, realizes it's too hard to clean, and just decides, you know what, I actually prefer a dirty house.
Oh, I see. It just rewrites its own definition of success to lazy mode.
Exactly. So we have to design agents where the performance measure is locked down and external. We judge the state of the world is the floor clean, not how the agent feels about his performance.
That makes a lot of sense. But even if we lock down the goal, life happens. You can do everything right and still fail. Doesn't that make you a bad agent?
This is such a crucial distinction. We have to separate rationality from perfection, and we mix them up all the time. Let me give you a scenario. Picture this. You're in Paris, standing on the Champs-Élysées.
I like where this is going already.
You see an old friend across the street. You're thrilled. You check the traffic light. It's red for cars. You look left, you look right. The street is completely empty. It's perfectly safe. So you step off the curb to cross. And at that exact moment, a cargo door falls off a passing airliner at 33,000 feet and flattens you.
Well, that took a turn. I'm dead.
Flat as a pancake. Now, here's the question. Were you irrational to cross the street?
I mean, the outcome was terrible. I died. So clearly I made a mistake, right?
The aha moment. You were not irrational. You were just unlucky. Rationality is about maximizing expected performance based on what you know at the time. It is not about maximizing actual performance based on the future.
Because to avoid the cargo door, I would need it to be clairvoyant, not rational.
Precisely. If we judged agents based on the actual outcome every time, we'd never be able to design anything because you can't code for falling airplane parts. However, we can blame an agent for not trying to learn more.
What does that mean?
Well, if you cross the street without looking and then got hit by a truck, that is irrational. You failed to do what's called information gathering. A rational agent takes action specifically to modify what it knows.
So looking left and right is an action that updates my data.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of agents that don't update their data, let's talk about nature. We usually think of animals as these, perfect biological machines. But I was surprised by how much shade the research threw at insects, specifically the dung beetle.
Oh, the dung beetle is the classic example of the difference between, let's say, nature and true autonomy.
So what does it do wrong?
It's not that it does it wrong, it's that it can only do it one way. The beetle digs a nest, lays eggs, and then it fetches a ball of dung to plug the entrance. It's a hard-coded routine. But if you take the dung ball away while the beetle is carrying it, the beetle doesn't react.
It doesn't go looking for it.
No. It continues the motion. The ant mime's plugging the hole with the ball that isn't there. It physically cannot recognize that the situation has changed. It's just running a script.
That's wild. It's like a glitch in a video game.
And the Sphex wasp is even more tragic. So it drags a caterpillar to its burrow, leaves it at the door, goes inside to check the burrow, comes back out, and then drags the caterpillar in.
Sounds thorough. Safety first.
Sure. But scientists did an experiment. While the wasp is inside checking, they just move the caterpillar a few inches away. The wasp comes out, finds the caterpillar, drags it back to the door, and then goes back inside to check the burrow again.
Because the script reset.
Yes. If you keep moving the caterpillar, the wasp will repeat that cycle indefinitely, 40, 50 times. It will never realize, hey, I just checked inside. It completely lacks autonomy.
So that's the bar we're trying to clear. We don't want to build a $1 million robot that gets stuck in an infinite loop because someone moved a box 2 inches.
Exactly. We want autonomy. We want an agent that can learn and compensate for partial or incorrect knowledge.
Okay, so we know we want an autonomous agent, not a dung beetle. But if I'm an engineer sitting down to build, say, an automated taxi, where do I even start? Is there like a checklist?
There is. It's a framework called PEAS. P-E-A-S.
Like peas, like the vegetable.
Easy to remember. It stands for Performance, Environment, Actuators, and Sensors. Before you write a single line of code, you have to fill out the PEAS description.
So for our taxi driver, let's break that down.
Okay. Performance. What are we trying to achieve? Safety, speed, profit, comfort. And you should note, those often conflict. The fastest trip usually isn't the safest.
We're the most comfortable. I've had those cab rides.
Right. Then actuators. Steering, brakes, accelerator, sensors, cameras, GPS, speedometer. But the big one, the one that really determines how hard the job is the environment. The roads, pedestrians, the weather, other drivers. In AI, we categorize environments to figure out how smart the agent needs to be. For example, is the environment fully observable or partially observable?
Chess would be fully observable, right? I can see the whole board.
Correct. But driving a taxi? That is partially observable. You can't see around corners, and more importantly, you can't see what other drivers are thinking. That makes it infinitely harder.
Then there's this term that always trips me up, stochastic.
It just means there's uncertainty in the outcome. Think of it this way. In a video game, if you press the jump button, Mario jumps. Every single time. That is deterministic.
Okay.
In the real world, if you press the brakes, you probably stop. But what if there's black ice? or your brake pads are worn out, you might not stop. The outcome of your action isn't guaranteed. That is stochastic.
I see. So you're kind of gambling on the result every time you act.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And then you have static versus dynamic. A crossword puzzle is static. It just sits there and waits for you. A taxi is in a dynamic environment.
Because traffic is moving while you're thinking.
Right. If you hesitate for 2 seconds at a green light, the whole situation has changed. You're getting honked at, as the saying goes in the field. If you haven't decided yet, that counts as deciding to do nothing.
That is stressful, just hearing it. Okay, so we've defined the taxi's nightmare environment. Now, how do we build the brain? The research lays out this sort of hierarchy of 4 types of agents. I want to walk through these, but let's stick with the taxi example.
Perfect. Let's start at the bottom. Level 1, the simple reflex agent.
Okay, what does the reflex taxi do?
It operates on simple condition action rules.
Yeah.
If the car in front shows brake lights, then initiate braking. It's just a knee-jerk reaction.
That sounds okay. I mean, I want it to stop.
It works fine if the world is simple and fully observable, but driving is partially observable. What if a truck blocks your view of the traffic light? A simple reflex agent only acts on what it sees right now. If it can't see the red light, it assumes there is no red light.
Oh, no.
Hits the gas and causes a wreck.
Okay, reflex taxi is a death trap. We need an upgrade.
Enter level 2, the model-based reflex agent.
What's the upgrade? What does model-based mean?
Memory. The agent maintains an internal state. It keeps a model of the world and tracks things even when it can't see them.
So in that truck scenario,
The model-based taxi saw the red light 10 seconds ago. So even though the truck is blocking it now, its internal model says, hey, the light is probably still red. It understands how the world evolves over time.
okay, that's much, much better. But just knowing where things are doesn't mean you know where you're going.
Exactly. You can be a very safe driver who just circles the block forever. That's why we need level 3, the goal-based agent.
This is where we give it a destination, like take me to the airport.
Yes, get to the airport. Now, the agent isn't just reacting, it's planning. It uses search algorithms to find a sequence of actions. Turn left, go straight, turn right, that it predicts will lead to the goal.
That sounds complete. We're safe, we remember things, and we have a destination. Why do we need a level 4?
Because there's a big difference between being effective and being efficient. A goal-based agent just wants to get to the airport. If the route takes it through a muddy cornfield, or it takes 5 hours longer than necessary, technically it's still achieved the goal.
Ah, I see. It has no sense of quality, just success or failure.
Right. So level 4 is the utility-based agent.
Hmm.
Think of the difference between a paper map and Google Maps. The paper map shows you a way to get there. Google Maps uses a utility function. It weighs time, fuel cost, traffic, maybe even tolls.
So it's not just a binary success-fail. It's a sliding scale of how happy am I with this route?
Exactly. A rational utility-based agent calculates the trade-offs to maximize its overall happiness or utility. It might choose a route that is slightly longer but much safer because it weighs safety much higher than speed.
So we've gone from a knee-jerk reflex machine to this thoughtful planning optimizer. But there is one final leap in the research, and it feels like the most human one, the learning agent.
This is the paradigm shift. Up until now, we've been assuming that we, the programmers, write all the rules. If red lights, stop. If raining, slow down. But the real world is just too complex for us to write every single rule.
So we build a machine that writes its own rules.
Precisely. A learning agent has a critic that watches what happens. Hey, the passenger yelled at us. And a learning element that changes the code for next time. But there's one component here that I absolutely love. It's called the problem generator.
The problem generator. That sounds like something you'd want to uninstall. Why would I want my taxi to generate problems?
The bad name for a brilliant concept. Think about exploration versus exploitation. Let's say you have a favorite pizza place. You know it's good. If you go there every Friday, you are exploiting your current knowledge to get a guaranteed good meal.
I do that. It's safe.
But what if a new Thai place opened up next door that is 10 times better? If you only exploit what you know, you will never find it. You have to explore. You have to take a risk on a potentially bad meal to find a great one.
So the problem generator tells the taxi, try the Thai place.
In driving terms, it might suggest, hey, let's try this side street we've never used before, or let's try braking a little differently on this wet road to see how the car handles.
Wait, isn't that dangerous?
It suggests suboptimal actions in the short term to gain knowledge for the long term. If you never test your limits, you never learn where they are.
So a truly rational learner must make mistakes on purpose.
It must explore. If you don't explore, you can get stuck in what's called a local maximum. You might be good, but you'll never find the great solution that requires trying something weird.
That is fascinating. It reframes curiosity not as a distraction, but as a core component of strict mathematical rationality.
Precisely. You can't be perfect if you aren't curious.
So we've gone from a thermostat to a tragic wasp that can't change its mind, all the way to a utility-maximizing autonomous learning machine that actually takes risks to get smarter.
That's the journey. And I think the big takeaway for you, the listener, is that intelligence isn't magic. It's a structure. It's about handling uncertainty, maximizing utility, and knowing when to stop following the script and start exploring.
And as we sign off, here's something to think about. We talked about that problem generator, the part of the agent that suggests doing something inefficient just to learn. When was the last time you did that? Are you operating on reflexes, just exploiting the same old pizza place and the same old commute? Or are you letting your internal problem generator take the wheel for a bit?
Rationality involves curiosity. Don't be a dung beetle.
Words to live by. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.